The New York Knicks avoided what would have been an embarrassing loss to the San Antonio Spurs. They're second in under a week. Jalen Brunson dropped a regular season career high 38 points. But I'm going to tell you why that wasn't the biggest story to come out of tonight's Knicks game. All that and more right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline now has you covered with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts, and who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the New York Knicks escaped. It was too close. It was way too close after holding a double-digit lead in the second half, and there was just a point of comfort is how I would describe it, at least, and maybe that was irrational given what's happened in the last 2 weeks against both the Bulls and the Mavericks, but I was comfortable. I thought the Knicks were going to cruise to a victory. I thought Jalen Brunson was going to hit some big shots. I thought Julius Randle would continue to dominate physically. I saw a couple of Emmanuel Quickley and Quentin Grimes threes falling down. Mostly, I didn't really see anything from the Spurs in terms of their ability to execute offensively that put any fear into my heart. And that was wrong because San Antonio came back, almost won this game. If the Spurs had had a little bit better execution down the stretch, or if Jalen Brunson hadn't hit 2 clutch jumpers, they certainly could have won this game. And it's easy to look at it and say, all right, it's the NBA. And the Knicks are not a great team. They might be a good team with everyone healthy. They might be a very good team with everyone healthy, but they're not a great team. And even the great teams, look at the Boston Celtics, right? Everyone's favorite to win the NBA championship. They lost by 35 a night ago, giving up 151 points without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you can have bad nights. And for the Knicks, even considering that they lost to the Spurs a week ago, and they should have been hell-bent on decimating what is, for my money, I know they don't have the worst record, but their net rating is 2 points worse than anyone else. So I'll say it, for my money, the worst team in the league. You can make excuses, you can make exceptions, and maybe normally I would focus on the positive coming out of this one, and I promise we will get to Jalen Brunson's career night in just a couple of minutes, but there are some worrisome trends for the New York Knicks in end-of-game situations. The offense, and if you follow this podcast for a while, or if you watch the team and have functional eyeballs, you know this is a trend. Tibbs is not the most creative coach in clutch situations, and that is compounded by the fact that I think Julius Randle, for a variety of reasons, is not as effective down the stretch as he is earlier in games. I think he has a little bit of a tendency to wear down. He doesn't get the calls necessarily that he is very good at baiting fouls on jumpers earlier in games, and officials seem to be just a little bit less generous handing those out down the stretch of games. That is purely an observed phenomenon. I don't really have stats to back that up, but that seems to be the trend, where he is not drawing those rip through, like, pop-up fouls in crucial clutch moments. And his meticulous style doesn't work as well when a defense is fully locked in. And we saw it in one of the final plays he had in the last 2 minutes of this game, where he was backing down 2 defenders. This is actually the one that gave the Spurs a chance to tie inside the final 30 seconds, right? A bucket all but puts it away for the Knicks. Instead, Randall's backing down, double team, has Jericho Sims open for a moment. And earlier in games, at least of late, he's been making that pass. And it's not an easy pass. It's a really complicated one to throw it, like, kind of over your head, over 2 defenders. But he's been making that pass. And he, for whatever, he didn't even attempt it in this situation, ended up trying a fadeaway over two guys, bricked it. And that was kind of a microcosm of what the end of this game was, where, and what the end of so many games are for the Knicks, where it sort of bogs down into ISO ball, and it's ISO ball with guys that have played massive minutes. Julius went for 41 in this one. Jalen Brunson went for 40. Not that Emmanuel quickly was asked to really participate in that, but he played 46 minutes in this game. And where you see literally 1 in 14,000 occurrences against teams like the Mavericks, where the Knicks blow seemingly insurmountable leads. Obviously the Bulls game came down to missed free throws more than anything else, but I think you can attribute a lot of it to fatigue. And that is, if I was to kind of sum up the issues with Randle, and even some issues with Brunson down the stretch. So he was the reason the Knicks won this one. So I can't really say that for this game. I would say it is essentially that. And then Tibbs's inability to make life easier for guys with sets or actions that get them the ball on the move and give them multiple clear-cut options. And it's not just physical fatigue. I think it is mental fatigue, especially for Randle, because of late, I mean, he's been a monster in terms of his decision making of late. I mean, Knicks Film School had this stat over his let me just find it here. Yeah, over his last 6 games, he has a 5 to 1.7 assist to turnover ratio. That's not factored down. That's 5 assists, 1.7 turnovers per game average over his last 6 games. Over his last 19 games, he's a 4.7 to 2.1 ratio. He's making great decisions, but that goes away bit by bit as the game goes on, and he gets more and more tired. And that's not really a Randle critique. I mean, that's true for essentially everyone in the NBA except for like the elite of the elite of the elite. And even those guys have downturns. It's just that their baseline in terms of decision making and gravity that makes decisions even easier is so high that they have more margin for error in clutch situations. Think a Luka Doncic or a LeBron James or a Nikola Jokic. The other issue for the New York Knicks, not necessarily in the final 3 or 4 closing minutes of the ball game, but just throughout this one, was that Mitchell Robinson was in foul trouble. And all season long, the Knicks have been a drastically better team when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor, and that is particularly true over the last 10 games. I'm going to explain why in just a sec. But first, I have to tell you about the best place in the whole wide world that you can throw some money down today and have some hopes of making some money back. It is betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, for pro football to college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net, and that includes the latest NBA championship odds. The New York Knicks are 150 to 1 to win the NBA championship. They are behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Sacramento Kings, the Portland Trailblazers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors, who didn't score a point for the first 7 minutes tonight, and the Los Angeles Lakers. So BetOnline does not love the Knicks, but that could be to your advantage. Throw some money down, and you know, when the Knicks win the title, you'll be laughing all the way to the bank. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, we are back on Locked On Knicks. So we got into the Julius Randle issue in clutch situations. I'm not going to call it the Julius Randle issue, because it's not. It's the Tom Thibodeau issue, by and large, with a little Randle-itis sprinkled in there. But sprinkled in there? That's not a word. Sprinkled in there. That's what I was looking for. The other big issue in this game, Mitchell Robinson only plays 13 minutes because he had massive foul trouble. Didn't even foul out. Tibbs just decided to go with Jericho Sims down the stretch, which I disagree with, even the way Mitch was playing. But Mitch sort of did it to himself, because it wasn't, obviously, I mean, you can look at the Spurs roster. It was not a situation where he was going up against an elite big man. You know, he's playing against Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. You kind of get it. Those are 2 of the 4 or 5 best offensive players on planet Earth. So it makes a little bit more sense. Going up against Jakob Poeltl and Zach Collins, that should not be a significant issue for Mitch, but he repeatedly fouled on shots that he had no business fouling on. Like his third was on Jakob Poeltl taking a jump hook about 9 feet away from the basket, even though it went in. I would say that is not one where you should even be particularly close to him. He fouled Zach Collins just by smacking him on the elbow when he already had 4 fouls on a mid-range jumper as the shot clock was dwindling. It is just it's not something we see from Mitch all that often anymore, because he has gotten just dramatically better in terms of avoiding those stupid fouls. But there are still just moments and iotas of games where he seems to forget what he's doing. He seems to space out for a sec, and it really, really hurts the Knicks. And I'll tell you why. It is because Mitchell Robinson is third in the entire NBA in net rating on the season amongst players who play at least 20 minutes per game and have played at least 25 games. He's only behind Cedi Osman and Derek White. So the Knicks are 10.8 points better per 100 possessions when Mitchell Robinson is on the court than when he is off the court. And that has only gone up of late. Over the last 10 games, the Knicks are 20 points better when Mitchell Robinson is on the court. So for a team that has gone 5-5, they're 20 points better they not 20 points better. They are plus 20 when he's on the court. 124 offensive rating, so scoring 124 points per 100 possessions. They're only allowing 104.1 points per 100 possessions. If you're watching on YouTube, I am putting up. Oh wait, sorry, that is for later. He's been incredibly good defensively. He's been buoyed offensively by playing with better passers, primarily Jalen Brunson and just better breakdown guys, and a more unselfish Julius Randle are just getting him the ball in better positions than ever. So that is helping, and he's turned himself into arguably the best rebounder in all of basketball. So you combine all that, he is a massively impactful player in a vacuum. But when you look at stuff like net rating, it's not only in a vacuum. Obviously, it also you're also taking into account what is the net rating of the other options, Isaiah Hartenstein and Jericho Sims. So when those two are on the court together over the last 10 games, over the last 8 games. So since the Knicks 8-game winning streak, when they were a really good duo, and we were talking them up, and I regret this now, but I put out a tweet being like, all right, are we sure Obi Toppin's going to play if Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein keeps working? That take has not aged well, because over the last 8 games, that duo has a minus 23.7 net rating. They have been borderline unplayable, and a lot of that stretch, or at least the last 5 games of it now, coincides with RJ Barrett being out of the lineup. And I think RJ playing with that bench unit did a lot to buoy them, to kind of put some wind under their sails, because they're in desperate need of offense when those two are on the court together. Hartenstein in particular has really, really struggled, and teams generally ignore whichever one of those two is out on the perimeter, because iHart can't really shoot. And Sims once or twice per game is able to take advantage of the fact that he is ignored and just duck in for a dunk. But every other possession that is not happening, you're essentially playing 4-on-5. And if you don't have an offensive talent that is overqualified to go up against opposing bench units, whether that is RJ Barrett or Jalen Brunson, you are in deep trouble if you are the New York Knicks when those two are on the court together. So if for some reason RJ is back before Obi, I could justify playing them a little bit longer. But given that Obi Toppin was technically available tonight and RJ Barrett was still listed as out, I don't think that's going to happen. And to preview a future question we're going to cover in the third segment of this podcast, I see one of those two, probably Jericho Sims, falling out of the rotation. The reason I say Jericho Sims, who had some really good moments in this game, 2 really nice blocks, 4 points, 7 rebounds, ended up playing 22 minutes. He has issues as a rim protector. This was something our guy Prez noted on Twitter. And then I kind of was when I saw him tweet that, it was after the game, and I kind of thought back. I was like, yeah, I guess there was a stretch when he was in there where the Spurs were getting a lot of layups. And then so now you should be on YouTube watching, because I'm going to put up a little graphic, or if not, I can describe it to you for all you podcast listeners. So it is Jericho Sims rim protection numbers versus everyone else or every other big on the Knicks. So Sims allows the highest percentage on the entire team, including the guards, on shots taken at the rim. And for shots under 6 feet and in, opponents are shooting 65.2% for Jericho Sims, while shooting 64% for Isaiah Hartenstein and 63.5% for Mitchell Robinson. So you could say, well, Gavin, that doesn't sound all that bad. It's only a percentage, not even a percentage and a half worse than Isaiah Hartenstein. I think the other number to consider here is the frequency of rim attempts when he's on the floor. So the percentage of opponent shot attempts that come at the rim when these guys are on the floor. For Jericho Sims, it's 43%. For Isaiah Hartenstein, it's 39%. For Mitchell Robinson, it is just 36%. He's not deterring people from taking shots at the rim. People see Jericho Sims in there. They see that he's only 6'10". And they say, hey, I want to go at that guy. And this was an issue for Sims last year, right? You see him have these great moments of verticality where he'd want to engage, where he'd want to go chest to chest with you. And then other times, and maybe the issue is just how quickly he gets up on his jumps. He doesn't seem to have any interest in contesting shots, and doesn't seem to have any interest in being physical and making a play at the rim. And you combine that with an offensive package that at points during summer league, you're like, all right, maybe he can do a little bit more stuff than Mitchell Robinson, but ultimately during games, he does not get a chance to really stretch out what he does offensively more than someone like Mitchell Robinson. So my gut instinct is he is ultimately going to fall out of the rotation. And I think for the Knicks to play like the team that they did over their 8-game winning streak, it is going to see Obi Toppin retake the backup power forward spot, and RJ Barrett, when he's fully healthy, playing with the bench unit, because they desperately need a scorer to prop up those bench heavy units. And they got it a little bit tonight, where they tried combos with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle out there, but we didn't really get just Brunson with the bench. We got Randle with the bench when Mitch picked up his third foul very early into the second quarter. But that is part of the reason why Randle was so fatigued at the end of the game. So you can kind of see a conglomeration of negatives that nearly led to just a brutal loss for the Knicks. Wow, we're almost 20 minutes in, and we haven't talked Jalen Brunson yet, as he dropped 38 points. So we are going to do that in just a sec when we are back on Locked On Knicks. All right, guys, third and final segment. I delayed the inevitable long enough. 38 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists for Jalen Brunson. The guy is a basketball genius. It's not a term I throw around lightly. I would describe maybe 40 guys in the NBA worthy of that descriptor. Maybe less. I don't know, but he fits the category. If anyone's ever seen the movie Whiplash, I just imagine it was that kind of lifestyle for Jalen under Rick Brunson growing up, just meticulously practicing moves for hours and hours and hours and hours, because it's not only the variety that he has in his footwork, but it is the deployment, when he chooses to use it, when he goes, when he doesn't, and how he can operate from every single spot on the floor. And he got the Knicks off to such a good start in this game. He opened up shooting 4 for 4 from the field, had 8 points in the first 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The Spurs put Jeremy Sohan on him, and Brunson, it was cute the Michael Jordan meme. I took that personally. it felt like that from the get-go from Jalen Brunson, where he was just torturing the poor rookie. And then he had Josh Richardson on him, who's an established excellent defender in this league. Has about 5 inches on Jalen Brunson. Brunson didn't care. I mean, had one play where off a screen, he got a step on Richardson. Zach Collins met him at the rim, and he threw like a little shoulder fake as if he was going to swing it back to the perimeter. Collins bit on it, totally exited the screen. Brunson just laid it in. And then he got the mid-range game working, hitting from the elbow a couple times in a row in the final minute of the second quarter to turn a 3-point Knicks lead into a 7-point cushion going into the second half. Then in the second half, got the 3-pointer going. And then just some of the playmaking, like a little shuffle pass to Quentin Grimes for a layup that beat the shot clock buzzer. That was absolutely beautiful. Had just an awesome hustle play where he poked it away from Zach Collins off of the miss to get Isaiah Hartenstein 2 rebounds, a lob to Jericho Sims to tip it in halfway through the fourth quarter. And in and out into a cross, into a scoop euro, and a righty lay to make it 112-111 with 3:04 to go. The 2 big jumpers down the stretch. We could go on and on and on. Just a masterful performance from Jalen Brunson. Anything less, and the Knicks probably do not win this ball game. No other way to say it than that. Randle, I know we already went kind of in depth on Randle, but I just want to emphasize that despite my complaints about him in the clutch, despite a very poor shooting night where he's right around 35% from the field, 9 for 26, 1 for 8 from 3, only went 6 for 11 from the free throw line. He still did a lot of good stuff tonight. Managed to finish with 25 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and most impressively, 4 blocks in this ball game. I would say not so arguably his defensive player of the year. Maybe I would have to really rack my brain, go through the archives, but maybe my all-time favorite defensive play for him as a Knick, with an insane chase down block on Josh Richardson that he just timed it up perfectly. But the timing really wouldn't have mattered if Julius wasn't just in the best shape of his career, because he elevated just so quickly. And I know I've said it in regards to his offense before, but in regards to his defense, his explosion is just on a vastly different level than I've ever seen from him as a Knick, and at least from what I remember early in his career. And then had 2 other blocks in transition. One time, like tipping a shot from Keldon Johnson, and then he had one other one that was good, but I am forgetting it, so I will move on. And then just I know I always use this phrase, but the variety of offense that he brings to the table. I mean we saw pure physicality, where he's backing guys down into little jump hooks, hit about 3 or 4 different fadeaways going across the lane. Again, just inhuman body control for someone that big, and had a putback flush in this game. So just another outside of the shooting, another and the play down the stretch, just another big night for Jules. I don't think the Knicks win this game without the contributions of Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel Quickley. Emmanuel Quickley fought through 46 minutes, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. I still would like to see him get downhill a little bit more, even though he was only 1 for 5. I wouldn't mind him putting up more than 5 threes, given that he was on the court for 46 minutes. Like, his aggressiveness comes and goes, but the payoff there is that his decision making is just fantastic. Over the last 6 games now, he's tallied 37 assists and 6 turnovers. Shout out to our guy Orange and Blue on Twitter. You can go throw him a follow there for pointing that out. Also 6 steals, so just as many steals as turnovers. So you could say he's kind of canceled out any mistakes he's made on the other end of the floor. And then Quentin Grimes in this one, 14 points, 5 for 8, 3 for 5. But man, just so many just high IQ plays. Like, recognized he had Jakob Poeltl on an ISO and just went right by him early in this game to draw a foul. Had this great hustle play where he ran down a loose ball as he was flying out of bounds, just pegged it off of Josh Richardson. Back to back, like, really good cuts. The one I already mentioned that Brunson got the assist on, and then had another play where Brunson was trapped, cut in and then just elevated and shuffled it to Mitchell Robinson on a little up and under, hit a clutch 3 with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left, and then essentially won the game for the Knicks on the final possession for the Spurs, where they were trying to get off a 3 to tie it. And Brunson and Randle doubled Trey Jones. And Grimes had a great cognizance of where the clock was, because Keldon Johnson was wide open, and Grimes peeled off Doug McDermott and got a contest on Johnson that made it so he didn't even get a shot off before the buzzer. So that was a bit of brilliance from Grimes. And I could shout out Evan Fournier in a negative way, because I really did not like his defense in that one. But let's end on a positive note. The New York Knicks, a 3-game winning streak. I think it is going to make all the difference in the world when RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin are healthy. And oh yeah, that was the last thing we had to do. I referenced it earlier, but we got a Twitter question from Bugsy Sig at Buzzy Sig. If you're watching on YouTube, you know it is up on the screen. He said, "What does Tibbs' rotation look like moving forward, assuming everyone is healthy? Any chance Sims displaces iHeart or Rose displaces Deuce?" I don't think so. I think there's a small chance that Sims plays over Isaiah Hartenstein, but we've seen Tibbs in the past always likes to go with the veteran, and always likes to, sometimes to a bad extent, give him credit for not doing this with Evan Fournier anymore. He takes into account how much money the guy is making, and so that would be a case for iHeart over Sims. So what I think the rotation will look like going forward, I'm expecting 36 minutes for Jalen Brunson at the point guard spot, 12 minutes for Emmanuel Quickley there. Shooting guard, I think 20 minutes for Grimes, 16 minutes for Quickley, 12 minutes for Deuce. Small forward, RJ 35, Grimes 13. Power forward, Julius 35, Obi 13. Center, Mitch 30, Isaiah Hartenstein 18. Obviously, that'll fluctuate based on injury, based on foul trouble. I could see a world where Deuce gets cut from the rotation entirely, and RJ gets a couple more minutes, Grimes gets a couple more minutes, IQ gets a couple more minutes, Brunson gets a couple more minutes. But I think for the sake of load management, even though that is not a thing that Tibbs is fond of, I think Deuce stays out there. And I think for maintaining the defensive first attitude and just the general tenacity, I think he's going to want to keep Deuce in the rotation, playing some minutes, applying that kind of pressure, particularly in specific matchups. So I think it looks something like that for the New York Knicks. But anyways, that is it for this one. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We're hoping, we're not 100% sure. We're hoping we'll be back with a special guest tomorrow. If not, we will have an episode breaking down the Knicks schedule. And then Alex will be taking you guys through the Toronto Raptors game on Friday night for Saturday morning. So until then, be good. We'll talk to you all soon on Locked On Knicks.